The new album from the Black Crowes, Happiness Bastards, proves that rock and roll is alive and well in 2024, and a band can take a few years off and come back and still blow us away. Let's talk about the new album from the Black Crowes, Happiness Bastards, on Rock Album Review. Hey everybody, it's Nick here with you. Welcome back to the channel. Happiness Bastards is the 9th studio album from the Black Crowes, the follow-up to Before the Frost, Until the Freeze, which came out all the way back in 2009. It's been a very long time since we got new original studio music from the Black Crowes. And the brothers Robinson, Chris and Rich buried the hatchet after being apart for a few years. They got the band back together, got into the studio, and recorded this new album, and it's been a very long time coming. And I'm a huge Black Crowes fan. They've been a huge influence on me as a music fan and as a musician, and I actually just did a rock albums ranked of all their albums from worst to best here on the channel, so I'll link that up for you here. So I was very excited that the Black Crowes got back together, very excited to listen to this new record, and I'm happy to say that it's a fantastic rock and roll record, and the Black Crowes haven't missed a beat. I don't want to say I was skeptical of them putting out a new record, but it's been such a long time since they put out new music. I wouldn't say that I was fearing, I was more hoping that they would still have the same instrumental prowess and the same songwriting chops that they had in the past. But my fears were quickly calmed for the first notes of this record right from the get-go. They let you know that the Black Crowes are back, and they still got it. Yeah, the band comes out swinging right from that first track, the opening track, Bedside Manners, like they haven't missed a beat at all. And they do indeed still got it. Chris Robinson remains a top-of-the-line vocalist who is just so unique in his style and his presence and his performance. He's got the range, but he's also got the soul and just the flat-out charisma and attitude that he's always had. He sounds great on here on tracks like Wanting and Waiting, Dirty Cold Sun, which is one of the more all-and-out rock and roll songs on the record. He's got lots of attitude, and I love the lyrics on this, freezing in the dirty cold sun. Chris Robinson sounds fantastic. Rich Robinson on the guitar side of things really gets to shine on here as well. There are some really great solos on this record, some great riffs on songs like Rats and Clowns, Cross Your Fingers, the lead single Waiting and Wanting, and one of my favorite riffs on the record is on a track called Follow the Moon. The Black Crowes are definitely reclaiming some of their original sound after going more into a country and roots rock direction on Before the Frost and Until the Freeze, but that record was a long time ago, so it's understandable that they're going to get back to that core Black Crowes sound. And it wouldn't be a Black Crowes record without some amazing gospel and soul backup vocals that just make the songs soar on songs like Waiting and Wanting, Bedside Manner, Cross Your Fingers. Always been one of my favorite elements of the Black Crowes sound is that, you know, Chris Robinson is doing those awesome lead vocals surrounded by all that gospel soul goodness. And the album just really cooks, you know. It felt really good just to sit down and listen to a great rock and roll record and just listen to the band rip it up. I used to listen to a lot of Black Crowes, but over the last decade or so, or even the last 5 years or so, my tastes have definitely skewed more towards heavier kind of stuff that I've been listening to in the last little while, and less of that rock and roll sound. So it was just nice to sit down and listen to just a good old-fashioned, well-done rock and roll record. I love those classic rock and roll tinges on there as well. Some great piano organ on a lot of the tracks, and then you got some great harmonica on there as well on tracks like Bleed It Dry. And just like all the best Black Crowes records, there are some seriously tender moments on here where the band just strips it down to acoustic guitars and lets Chris Robinson break all our hearts as usual with his amazing vocals on a song like Kindred Friend, which is a really, really cool closer for the record. And another really tender track on this record is a song called Wilted Rose, which features Lainey Wilson on vocals. She's a country singer. I don't know too much about her or her music, but she sounds great on here, singing with Chris Robinson. And there's some pretty crazy wild stuff happening on this track as well. I felt like it was one of the more epic songs on the record, and it was like Pink Floyd meets rock and roll meets country music. I guess the criticism that you could lodge against Happiness Bastards is that after all this time, the Black Crowes have come back and essentially just done what they've always done, which is make rock and roll music. I'm not really expecting them to be all that experimental or really branch out in all sorts of different directions. They actually did that on Before the Frost and Until the Freeze, which was an enjoyable record, but I enjoy hearing the Black Crowes do rock and roll music, and that's precisely what they do on Happiness Bastards. Bastards. And I don't think that's a bad thing. The Black Crowes make Black Crowes records, rock and roll records, and there's really no need to experiment all that much. All they need to do is write some great songs, and there are some great songs on Happiness Bastards. And there's only 10 tracks on this record. It's a really short listen overall, so it sounds like the Black Crowes really went with the strongest group of songs that they could for this record. There's only 10 tracks on Happiness Bastards, but I would say my favorite tracks on this record that I'm coming away from that are going into the Spotify playlist are Rats and Clowns, really love that track. Cross Your Fingers, Wanting and Waiting, which I think is a great single altogether and a great Black Crowes track for sure. And then shout outs to other songs on this record, Dirty Cold Sun, Flesh Wound, really like that song. That was really cool, had a great melody. And Follow the Moon, which are later on in the album, but are all really great tracks. Overall, the Black Crowes are back and sound as great as ever. Chris and Rich Robinson reunited just like they should be. All we need now is Noel and Liam Gallagher to bury the hatchet, just like the Black Crowes. They're tour mates from the tour of Brotherly Love all those years ago. And the Black Crowes know how to make a great rock and roll record, which, you know, no matter the year or the decade, making a great rock and roll record is never a bad thing. I can see myself coming back and listening to this album quite a bit. So kudos to Chris and Rich Robinson and the rest of the band. Kudos to the Black Crowes on making a great rock and roll record, still kicking ass and coming back in 2024. This is a really, really enjoyable listen. So I'm going to give the new album from the Black Crowes, Happiness Bastards, a solid 4 out of 5. And that is it, guys. That is my rock album review for the new album from the Black Crowes called Happiness Bastards. Let me know what you thought of the record in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure to toss us a like. We'd appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to us here on the channel so you don't miss out on future rock and roll videos, future rock album reviews, rock albums ranked, and all sorts of good stuff. And then follow us on social media on Instagram and TikTok at Rock Squad Pod. But I'll see you guys again for another rock album review here on the channel. Until then, rock on, everybody.